Welcome back to the channel. The scouting combine's coming to an end, and once the scouting combine's done, I mean, it's time to start getting rolling into mock drafts, position rankings, gems, and all that stuff. I'm just kind of waiting for that to happen. But in the meantime, what I'm gonna be doing today is I'm gonna be going and looking at my 2024 way too early mock draft that I put out right after the 2023 draft last year. So last late spring, I put out a way too early mock draft on my channel. We're gonna go back and look at that mock draft, kind of see what's different, what players rose a lot, what players fell a lot, and just kind of take a look at what it is without saying much less. Let's go ahead and get right into the mock draft. All right, I got up here my way too early mock draft. Now we're gonna start going through it. The first couple picks really are kind of chalk. I'm not gonna watch the whole video, but I mean, Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison, 1-2. That's probably how it's gonna. Now, don't worry about what teams are picking. This was just odds at the beginning of the year, so the teams don't really matter. But Caleb and Marv still probably gonna be up there. I think Marv's not gonna. The only reason really Marv was 2 in this is because the Cardinals had both picks. But realistically, I mean, if there's a team that didn't need a quarterback, Marv would be right up there with Caleb Williams. So Caleb Williams, Marv, nothing's really changed. Drake May at 3. I still don't think anything's changed. Some people might have Jaden Daniels above him, but for me, nah, Drake May's still QB2. Jaden Daniels, I can warn you, is not going to be in this mock draft at all. So he is one of the biggest riders because no one is even talking about him. We should quickly move. Pick 4, Joe Alt. I think he's still kind of up there. He had some ups and downs, I think, a little more than maybe I would have thought before the season. But, I mean, he's still OT1. He's still going top 10. It's just kind of more who's picking and the fit that kind of decides where he goes, not really the player at all. So, I mean, that's still kind of just chalk and jumping forward. 5 is when it goes a little off the rails. I had Quinn Ewers. He decided to return to college. He probably wouldn't have been here even if he did come out. I just thought Quinn Ewers would have a really big year, and I thought he had a pretty good year, but he didn't really have the year that, I was like expecting there to be. I said in this video that there's going to be a quarterback that jumps up to be that number 3 quarterback. I thought it might be Quinn Ewers. Turns out it was Jaden Daniels. So I kind of had the right process of knowing, hey, there's going to be a dude that takes a giant leap. I just shot the wrong shot, man. I thought it was Quinn Ewers and it was Jaden Daniels. So, I mean, just flip Quinn Ewers for Jaden Daniels, and we're kind of getting along the right lines here. Moving on. Now, I know Malik Neighbors, another guy's going to go top 10. I don't even think I had him in this matchup. I hadn't watched him at this point yet, so he's another dude you're going to miss. But Olu Fashanu at 6. I mean, that's yet again. I mean, Olu's more just who's going to draft him. I still have him as OT2 behind Joe Alt. I still have him above Fuaga. But I think Olu Fashanu, I mean, he showed some struggles in run blocking, and, he had a little bit of struggles in that Ohio State game. But, I mean, JT2 and Maloa is a dog. I mean, he's going to be a lot of tackles in college football. So I'm not too worried about Olu. I still think he's going to be a dog. And like I said, kind of more just what teams are picking depending on where he goes, not really fully based on like the talent of him himself. Moving up, the Raiders at pick 7, we had Kool-Aid McKinstry. He's a dude who we all knew was a really good corner. It's kind of just, he's still a really good corner. It's more just his testing numbers are really what's putting him down. I think a couple other corners had really big years compared to Kool-Aid. So he's a dude that still a hell of a player, but just maybe got jumped by a couple other dudes in Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Nate Wiggins, Terran Arnold. They kind of just jumped him. I still think if he would have tested crazy, he could have still been like a top 20 guy, but I think people are just a little bit worried about the athleticism. And then he happened to have that injury come up at the combine, which didn't allow him to test. So hopefully he tests as pro day, but another dude who just fell a little bit, but he's still a good player. Jared Verse at pick 8. I still have him as edge 1. I think he could definitely go in this 8 to 12 range still, so nothing too crazy there. Even though people are a little lower on Jared Verse now than they were last summer, still a hell of a player. We had J.C. Latham at pick 9, so I was pretty high on J.C. Latham last offseason. I still think he's going to go like top 20, top 25-ish. Kind of like, because you got like Fuaga jumping up, Amarius Mims is jumping up boards right now, Tyler Guyton. It's kind of you got like, I feel like you got Olu, or you got Joe Alt, Olu, Fuaga, and then it's just kind of pick your poison between like J.C. Latham, Amarius Mims, Tyler Guyton. You got a lot of these dudes kind of in that, just like that. I guess it's thing like a third tier. I put Alt in his own tier, then Fashanu and Fuaga in a tier, and then that third tier, kind of just pick your poison. JC Latham more of a right tackle probably, so he might go a little later just because teams won't value that right tackle as much. But if you need a right tackle, JC Latham still dude won't go top 9, but Still a hell of a player. Dallas Turner just tested off the charts of the combine. I'm lower on Dallas Turner than most people. Um, I just wasn't a fan of some of the things I watched in the film, but he's still a hell of a player and definitely like the best athlete at the edge position in this draft class. So I mean, I see why people want to take the risk on him, and I think he will go around that range. He's a fringe top 10 dude, and I think I have him at 10. So I think that's still good range for Dallas Turner. Then we also have the Bears getting Brock Bowers. I think this is yet again good range for Brock Bowers, maybe on the high end. But I think that's more just to do with value of tight end rather than how good of a player Brock Bowers is. So I'm not really shocked with where that went there. Next up, JT Tuimoloau. He was who I was like super high on last offseason. I just loved his power profile and how this dude played. He was great in the run game. And he didn't have the greatest season at Ohio State, and then he decided to return, which I think was the right decision. And who knows, maybe he can really put it more together and have a big year and rise back up for next year's draft. But he was a guy I was a little disappointed with. Even though he still had a good year, like I said, he gave Olu some troubles, but even though he had a good year, he just didn't have the year that I thought he was going to be a breakout dude and really put his name down there. And he didn't necessarily, but still, dude, that still has potential that I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up next year as like a potential first round pick if he comes back and puts together a good senior season at Ohio State, because that team is stacked at Ohio State. I don't know how they got everyone to return. Then they got like Will Howard, Quinshon Judkins. They got Caleb Downs. I mean, whew, watch out for Ohio State, man. That team is nasty. Mason Smith is another dude who he was a shot in the dark in this way too early mock draft because he played as a freshman, then tore his, I think it was ACL, missed his whole sophomore season, and then this was his third season. So I mean, he was just like, hey, we've seen this dude's a freak. Maybe he'll be a breakout. He didn't end up having this season we all thought, but I mean, he's still draft eligible. He's still in the draft. I don't know exactly where he's gonna go yet. I haven't delved too much into his film, but another dude who he was just a shot of a guy who might be a big riser who didn't end up being it. So that's where Mason Smith. Now, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to throw some linebackers in there. I didn't really watch him, but Jeremiah Trotter is a hell of a linebacker. He's just a little small and not the craziest athlete, so he's going to go lower because of that. But, I mean, just in terms of linebacker, he's a hell of a linebacker, so definitely not going 14. And then Kalen King was one of the tough stories to watch because he was so good in his – I don't remember. I think it was his true sophomore season last year at Penn State. He was so good, man. He had like his PFF grades were off the charts. He was locking down, and then he really struggled this year. And it was kind of like he played Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison cooked him, and it's like, okay, I mean everyone gets cooked by Marvin Harrison. I'm not gonna take it too seriously. And then the struggles just kind of continued, and it was kind of tough to watch. I still think he has traits that you like, and that there's definitely a chance he puts it on in the NFL and kind of turns it around. But like, damn, sophomore Kalen King, go back and watch him if you haven't, because he was a dog. I don't really know what happened, but yeah, that one was sad to see. But I still like Kalen King as, just a shot in the dark. Michael Hall at pick 16 was another dude. He was one of my guys kind of last offseason. I really liked him, kind of like a Kalijah Kancey kind of player. He's not like as explosive as Kalijah Kancey, but undersized, really quick, really good pass rusher. I still really like him in this year's draft. Little dude, I'm a little bit higher on than normal. He's not like, your prototypical DT. Like, he's a smaller DT, but he is quick. He makes plays in the backfield. Like I said, think of like Kalijah Kancey, just not quite as juiced up as Kalijah Kancey. That's kind of what I see in Michael Hall, and I do that. I think he's going to be a steal in this draft. I think he's one of those dudes that goes, a little later than everyone thinks, and then he has a really good rookie season. Everyone's like, why didn't we draft him higher? Well, he's definitely not going 16 anymore, but I still have some stock in my Michael Hall, Emeka Buka is another one of the guys that I was a little bit higher on that I still think he was a really good player. I think quarterback play kind of came into play with, last year at Ohio State. I like his decision to return. He should have a really big year at Ohio State, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's a first-round pick next year because, he's small and he's not super fast, which usually isn't a good combination to be a first-round receiver, but he is so smooth in his routes. He understands the nuances of route running. He's a smart player, so I think he could put it together. He's not going to be like a top 10 dude, not even like a top 20 dude, but I could see him having a really good season and sneaking into at least a top 50 player next year. He probably would have been a top 50 this year. He wouldn't maybe have been a first, but still a hell of a player, man. Still like Ibuka. Cooper DeJean has probably rised a little. I liked his athleticism last season looking at him, and then he put together a hell of a campaign. Cooper DeJean's my corner one this year, so yeah, he had a hell of a campaign. He might go around pick 18, might go earlier. I don't really know how NFL teams are going to view him. I wish he would have tested at the combine because I think he would have tested off the charts, but we'll just have to wait and see on him. Jerzon Newton at pick 19. Jerzon Newton's probably still DT1. It's kind of between him and Byron Murphy, who like, kind of pick your poison. So I think he didn't necessarily have like the DT1 season, but he still had a really good season. I still think he could definitely be a first round pick. I think he will be a first round pick. Kind of just more what team needs him, where he goes. I mean, this pick could still happen. I know the Texans don't pick 19, but whatever that Browns pick is that the Texans have, they could definitely still just go Jerzon Newton. They still need a DT. I mean, hey, I'm claiming this one. If they pick Jerzon Newton with their first round pick, the Texans, I'm claiming that one as a hit almost a year in advance. Keep in mind, this was last, I think, April or May. This was before this last college football season, so there's obviously a lot more knowledge that we know now that I didn't know back then. So just keep that in mind as we're still going through. Chop Robinson was a big riser. I was kind of in on him last offseason. You can see I had him here at pick 20, so, shout out to me for being early on that Chop. He was really rising boards, and then he got injured. I believe it was the Michigan or the Ohio State game. Chop Robinson got injured, and then kind of fell off. But then he did really good at the combine the other day, and I wouldn't be surprised if Chop kind of starts rising back. I think he's definitely got first round talent. So we'll see where he ends up going. But he's just a freak athlete. He's got an incredible get off. Fun dude to watch. I still think he could still go in this range. And dude, I was pretty high on last summer. Jack Sawyer was the guy I kind of missed on. He was a guy, he just hadn't really played a lot at Ohio State, but a former 5-star recruit. So I was like, hey, maybe, finally get some playing time he puts on. He had a solid season across from JT Tuimoloau. He decided to return, though, with JT Tuimoloau. You see, I just got to flex. I know how to say JT Tuimoloau. So that's why I say his name a lot. But no, Jack Sawyer, another dude who just hasn't played a lot of college football. So he's returning for another season. We'll see if maybe he puts together a good campaign this year, and we'll see where he lands next year. But definitely got some work to do for Jack Sawyer. Moving on, I had Fentrell Cypress, a dude I kind of missed on. I was really high on him coming from Virginia over to Florida State. Didn't necessarily put together the greatest campaign at Florida State. He's a great athlete, long dude. I actually don't know if he's returning to Florida State or entering the draft. I haven't really seen him in any draft, so I'm assuming he's returning to Florida State. But, yeah, definitely not a first-round pick anymore. Then I went Javon Bullard. He's a safety. I thought he was going to be a little more athletic. I thought he was going to be super fast, but he didn't really I think he ran into the 4.5s or 4.6s. I thought he could be like a 4.3, 4.4 dude. But smaller safety. He's coming out of this draft. He's going to be a mid-round kind of guy this year. Still a really smart, instinctive, good player from Georgia. Those DBs are always good bets from Georgia just to be solid players. So, but he's just a little small. That's kind of it with him. I had Blake Corum to the Cowboys. Blake Corum is a hell of a player, man. It's really just the size and speed profile that would worry you with Blake Corum. But just as a running back, I mean, dude's a hell of a running back. So I mean, I don't think any running backs end up going in the first round, but Blake Corum's definitely up in that conversation for RB1. A lot of people probably don't have him as RB1 just because of his size. But in terms of just pure running backs, he's definitely in that conversation, that top 3 running backs. Moving on, I kind of jumped a little too far forward. We had Xavier Worthy to the Green Bay Packers. Xavier Worthy, I don't think he'll be a first-round pick. I mean, the receivers are running the 40s today as I'm recording this. If he runs in the 4.2s, he'll probably be a first-round pick because that's how the NFL works. If you run in the 4.2s, you go up a round or two in the draft. So I think if he runs the 4.2s, he could be, but I don't know if he will. But he is fast. We'll see how the league views him. But, I mean, he's a hell of a player. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets drafted. I guess nowadays this would be like your Brian Thomas rather than Xavier Worthy. I guess that's kind of the difference between last May and now is Brian Thomas for Xavier Worthy. But similar style, deep threat receivers. Xavier Worthy is still one of the top kind of dudes in this class. I had Johnny Wilson. I think Johnny Wilson is a day 2 kind of guy. Teams are kind of like, is he receiver? Is he tight end? But, I mean, he could be a freak receiver or a tight end. Whatever he plays, he's a hell of a football player. I'm excited to see his role in the NFL because he's such a unique player at like 6'7". I think he's like 6'7", 240 or something. I might be off on the weight, but like he's just such a weird build that we haven't seen. But he balled at Florida State, and I'm excited to see his role in the NFL. He's not going to be a first-round pick, but I hope he just goes to a team that knows how to use him because he can be very productive in the NFL with just how unique he is. Moving on, Leonard Taylor at pick 27. I think Leonard Taylor should be a first-round pick. I don't think he will, but I mean, this dude was just played out of position at Miami. He's played at nose tackle when he's really more of a three-tech rush the passer kind of guy. That's his special. That's what he's good at. But he was asked just because of that defense and their personnel. He was asked to play nose tackle, which he struggled with because he's a smaller guy. He's gonna struggle with nose tackle. I know the feeling. Being a small guy playing nose tackle is tough. But you put this dude at three. That's why it would have been nice if he was healthy and he could have played. And I know he went to the Shrine Bowl for like interviews, but like if he could have played in the Shrine Bowl and they were able to play him at three tech, we were able to see those reps at three tech. I think he was one of those dudes. I was like, if he does well at like a Shrine Bowl at three tech, he could really be a first round pick because like he's got the talent. But we just never got to see it because he was injured and didn't participate in those games. So he's a guy I'm really interested in seeing. Another dude who, like, he's going to go later, but, like, I think this is where he should be going. He won't go here in the draft, I don't think, but I think he should be going here because I think he's still that talent, and I'm definitely not giving up on Leonard Taylor yet. Cam Kitchens at pick 28. I mean, he's in argument for the number one safety. It's really, like, I guess him and Tyler Nubin are kind of the guys, unless you count DeJean as a safety, which I don't, but it's kind of between him and Nubin for the safety one. He didn't test great, Kitchens, yesterday, but, I mean, he's still a really good safety, so he's not going to go in the first round probably, but still a really good player that just fell a little. Cooper BB, whatever, he didn't have the greatest campaign, and I know, like, I was high on him because he was just graded really well. He was just a really solid guard, but I guess it's just really his side. He's more of a college guard, I guess, than an NFL one, and I see why people are low on him. He's probably going to be like a early day three kind of guy, probably, maybe like late day two. But yeah, maybe just more of a college guard than that, so he's not going to go this early. Definitely a guy that dropped down a little. I was maybe a little higher on him anyway last April. Then I had Leatu Latu. Everyone's saying, oh, bro, no one knew who Leatu Latu was before last season. Oh, he came out of nowhere. He didn't come out of nowhere because I knew about Leatu Latu. I think I was mentioning in this video how I was actually watching Gabriel Murphy film because I thought Latu was not draft eligible. I didn't know his whole story. And then when I was watching film on someone else, I'm like, who the hell is this dude on the other side just beating up on tackles? And then I found out it was Leatu Latu, so I had to throw him in this mock draft. And look at him. He has some crazy senior campaign. Leatu Latu is definitely going earlier than this. I think he's definitely a top 20 dude. He's my edge 2. I got verse 1, Latu 2, Dallas Turner 3. So, like, I think he's going between 10 and 22. I think if he's on the board at, like, 22 in the Eagles pick, I don't know if the Eagles are really going to be able to pass on that. So, I think that could be, like, his floor. But, Latu, big riser this last season. Hell of a player. I'm excited to see what he does in the NFL because he is fun to watch. Moving on, our last couple picks here. We had Kalen Bullock from USC, the safety. He's still, a good guy in this draft. He's long. He comes downhill. Not the great tackler, but he likes to hit. Rangy kind of safety. He's probably like a day 2, day 3 fringe kind of guy. He's still up near the top of this safety class. I just don't think it's super strong safety class as we thought it might be. But he's still a good player and another guy who just fell a little, but he's still a hell of a player that's going to go decently early in this draft. Now, the Chiefs I think we had him running out with, like, I'm just going off the top of my head. I think it might have been, like, I might be Troy Frank. I think I definitely went receiver, I think. I don't remember which receiver I ended up going. I was debating this one for a while. As you can see, I'm clicking through this video, and I still haven't picked. And we still don't know. I went Braylon Trice, actually. So Braylon Trice was another dude I'm super high on. I'm probably higher on him still now than other people. He's kind of a bigger defensive end, but, like, you just look at, like, the numbers and, like, his pressure rates and sack rates and just his explosiveness on that Washington defense. I mean, he's a baller. Even just, like, in the 2 playoff games, especially in the national championship. I mean, this dude was just they were trying to double team him, and this was just making plays in the backfield. He's smashing pullers in the backfield. Like, he is just a disruptive defensive end. He knows how to win against tackles. Really fun guy to watch and more of a unique build. I kind of compared his build to like Keon White. Maybe not necessarily the play style like Keon White, but just kind of those bigger defensive ends. You know, Keon White was a late riser last year. I think Trice is just going to keep rising. He's a really good player. I don't think I did any second round picks. So that was it for that mock draft. So yeah, that was my way too early mock draft. Like, a lot changes in one season of college football. Let me know what you guys thought of it. Hopefully, I'll try and get way too early out after this draft. But I can't say I've even started that for good reason. Enjoy the combine, enjoy the draft. Like I said, once the combine's over, we're gonna start coming out with even more content with different position rankings, gems, more mock drafts, more in depth. I kind of want to wait because once the combine's done, you got a couple pro days, but you kind of got your more order set. So we're looking forward to that. And thank you for watching.